going to detail out a few of the final features of this top view using the Pathfinder tool. Okay, so let's work on the nozzle to this piece. So again, it's a symmetrical object, so we'll use the guide that we created and basically draw half of it. Now we're going to have to start looking at Illustrator as a series of stacked vector shapes. So this is good, so we're going to hit escape to close it. Then we'll zoom in. Again, we can turn off the sketch layer so we can see what we're doing. So I want to finesse this a little bit. This really needs to be a curve, so I'm going to add a little curve to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple of points on the corner, then I'm going to delete this corner point, and then I'm going to convert these corners to curves. And again, you always want to have both points of a curve have handles. Otherwise you start to get corners or compound points. Okay, so that looks better. So now I'm going to do as we did before, and I'm going to reflect this. So double click, copy, Command Y, so I can just see the points. I'm holding down Shift so it stays coplanar. I'm going to zoom in here, select these 2 points, and you can see they're actually overlapping. There's a little bit of overlap, so I want it to be intersecting. Okay, so now I select those 2 points, Command J to join, zoom in, Command J to join. Oop, looks like I got some extra. Let's see. Okay, good. So, and this is a good point. Whenever you join 2 points, it actually just creates a line segment between the 2 points. If you want it to be completely clean, like there's no point for these points to be here, you can just go back to the pen tool and just delete those. But that's starting to get a little obsessive. But, you know, you can do the same thing here, because it's just a straight line between these 2 corner points. So the points in here don't even matter. So I just deleted all of those. So now there's no point left. Okay. So now I just want to, I'm going to give everything a fill now, because right now we're just doing a black stroke, no fill. So I want to give it a white fill so we can start looking at stacking things. Because if we go back to the sketch, which now we won't be able to see, this was sitting on top of this. So I'm going to object, arrange, bring to front. That brings it all the way to the top of the stack. And if I hide this and just look at the sketch for a second, you can see here I've got like a little dip, like I'm planning on having this have a little bit of a cove. So if I want to sort of indicate that in the drawing itself, what I can do is add a secondary line. So there's a couple ways to do that. I can do what I did before, where I go edit, copy, then edit, paste in place, and then I'll just, holding down Option so it shrinks from the center, bring this in a little bit, and then I'll just change the stroke weight to, let's select everything that we've drawn so far. Okay, and we'll we'll set all of this to 1 point. Okay. And if we zoom in here, we can take this and set, deselect everything, and select this. Okay. Select the center one and set this to 0.5 point. So it's a half a point. And then we can just use the scissors to basically cut it. So it's a this sort of indicates a softer line, not a hard circle. So it's basically a round over on the top edge. And if you really want to be fussy, you can select these, go to stroke, and give them a rounded cap. Okay, and then we can take a look at it and say, you know, this is getting pretty good. Now, do we want to maybe, you know, when you're doing final specification drawings, you can begin to sort of finesse some of the details. And one of the details I see here is this is basically just plowing right into this disc, and maybe I want to soften that. So what I could do is add a point here. We want to have basically the same position here, and then we'll turn those into curves. Okay, so we'll add Bezier handles. Okay. And now we can, oops, use the white arrow to basically bring, I have to Command Y so that you can see the artwork, because now things are being obscured. So now we have this point. We'll bring this up to here. Bring this up to here. And again, we want to, so it's symmetrical. And we can select these 2 points. And we can use the arrow keys to nudge them up until we have a nice soft transition. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then escape. Okay, so then the only other thing is to look here. So we've got sort of a ridge that runs along here. We also have knurling on the handle, so that's not clear from the top, and we want to sort of show that texture. So we would do that by basically drawing a rectangle. We'll start at the bottom, and we're going to basically add, make sure we're at the center, and we want it to extend a little bit past, and we also want to make sure that it's completely centered on this. So you hold down Shift to select these 2 objects, and then you let go of Shift and you click on the object that you want to stay where it is when you use the Align tools. So now you can see this is highlighted. Then we go to Align, and we center vertically, but we also center horizontally, because now what we're going to do is we're going to rotate this. Rotate, and we're going to preview it so we can see. You want to use divisions of 360, because you want to basically have the equal amount. So let's say 5 degrees. Okay, that looks pretty good. So, and we'll say copy. Now we can duplicate that by going to basically just hitting Command D Okay, so now you have a nice symmetrical pattern. Now we can select all of this. We want to deselect the nozzle. We also want to zoom in and we want to deselect the circle there. And we also want to deselect in here. We don't want any of the circular parts of the nozzle to be selected. We just want those shapes that we just drew and duplicated. So now we have these, and we can now take this and using Pathfinder add all of those together. And so what we get is a nice sort of consistent little knurled detail, which if we send it to the back, or well, actually we want to bring everything above it to the front. So we're going to add a fill to this of white. Then we're going to select all of these, except deselect and we also want the, okay, so we have the circle, we have everything that we drew before. We're going to go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. Okay, perfect. And again, if you want to soften this, you can set this to 0.5 point, because we have a hard line around the outside. Okay. So this looks good.